Emily Kelly here, joined ever by my co-host
Peter Cunin.
And welcome to Fan Theories. It's been a little bit. Took a little month break.
Been a minute.
We got a puppy. So, and if you've ever had a puppy or a child, you know that puppies don't really want you to do an hour-long podcast because it doesn't involve them. So, but now our puppy is bigger and, smarter. That she'll allow us to do this. So that's why we're back with a very exciting new episode of Fan Theories, because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things to talk about ever for 10 hours is Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
So, and we are joined, it just so happens that the Their Network has a fantastic Game of Thrones podcast already. So we want to welcome our friends, the hosts of Wednesday in Westeros, Todd and Taylor.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. This is probably going to be longer than one of our normal podcasts because, one, we have a lot to talk about, and two, we all like to talk about it.
Especially, Game of Thrones. I have not read the books. I'm in that I know, I shouldn't even be talking right
now. Get out.
Emily gave me this disturbing look right now. I wish I could translate that. Anyway, but I do love the show, and so I love to talk about, my perhaps unique perception of
Yeah. And I
That's
think
great.
We
on the Todd Taylor side,
you guys.
Yeah, Taylor has not read, so
yeah,
that's
Taylor
right. Safety numbers, man. Safety numbers.
Yeah, we've talked about on the Wednesday in Westeros podcast when I've joined you guys, everyone's kind of brought into how they got into Game of Thrones and kind of what their knowledge base is. So Peter said you only show, no books.
Yeah, I am only show. I am no books. I am also not keen on the spoilers. I know there's lots of people out there who want to know all the things, and so that's kind of a weird middle ground to talk about fan theories but not get spoiled. So good luck, me. Good luck, Taylor.
Well,
Taylor,
I'll just say out of the gate. I was trying to spoil myself as much as possible just to keep up with the book readers. Book stopped, and now we're all sort of in the same boat show-wise, except for some big stuff that we'll get into today. But I'm eager. I'm ready.
Yeah, I like that this part of the fan theories is that I'm going to talk about a couple of book fan theories and how they might tie into the show. And so that kind of, I feel like, finally, as a book reader, I get another leg up on these dumb show only watchers.
Yeah, guys.
Well, we are well past, in most respects, the books, aren't we? At least going into this season.
Yeah, going into this season, we are very much in uncharted territory. So even book readers like Todd and I, we're on the same train as everyone else if we really don't know what is going to happen.
You guys you're in the privileged cart of the train, with the booze and the snacks, and Taylor and I in the back going, we need our peanuts.
Yeah, like that we maybe.
But we were. I feel like we just got kicked back. Like we took a Southwest flight and we're all in coach.
Nice.
And Todd, did you read the books before you watched the show or after you started watching the show?
I stopped watching season 1 so I could read the first book. And then I think watched the second season, and right after that read the next 4.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it went. Yeah.
Season 2 did it for you.
Yeah.
I was not some super nerd that like read them in 97 or whatever,
There are people, like one of my friends, she did, like, when I got into the show, she was like, I've read these books for like 10 years. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I was reading Harry Potter for all the time, okay?
That's got to be an amazing experience. Yeah, I'm so jealous of that. I would have loved to have, been in on that train. Like to see that first season materialize, it was so close to the book that would have been incredible.
True. All right, so we have some back and forth of book and TV show only. So hopefully these theories, as many of our listeners probably are in the same boats, we'll try to talk enough about how they tie into both book and TV show that you guys will kind of get a more well-rounded version of each theory.
Indeed.
We'll do our best. Well, without further ado, let's talk about our main topic, probably the biggest topic aside from who will end up on the stupid sword chair at the end of all this.
Stupid sword chair. Hashtag that, please.
Game of stupid sword chair. And this theory is, who is Azor Ahai? the Lightbringer, the Prince who was promised, the Fighter of Darkness.
It's not Stannis.
It's definitely not Stannis.
We can start ruling people out.
Yeah,
I don't know. We never
it's
saw
almost
Brienne.
like easier to pick who is not it.
We
instead
never
of who
saw
is
we
it.
never saw him die on screen. There's still opportunity for him to jump back in there and prove us all wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
True. So, for those of you not as intimately familiar with word by word prophecies, the prophecy of Azor Ahai,
Azor Ahai.
Yes.
the
If you say
Lightbringer-
it really fast, it doesn't really matter.
Azor Ahai.
Yeah.
The prince who was promised, and for the most part, the two are kind of interchangeable. Like, you know, they talk about in the books a little bit more that different cultures have different names for this Messiah-like character, but for the most part, it's the same person. So the prophecy goes like this. There will come a day after a long summer when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. In this dread hour, a warrior shall draw from the fire a burning sword, and that sword shall be Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes, and he who clasps it shall be Azor Ahai, come again, and the darkness shall flee before him.
It's pretty awesome.
That's a pretty lengthy prophecy.
Yeah.
Now,
Pretty
Emily, can I
specific, too.
ask you a book nerd question?
Yes.
So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this prophecy does say, shall be Azor Ahai come again. Do we know the original coming of Azor Ahai? What that legend
so
is?
it's kind of like I said, like a Messiah type deal. So, you know, it's like a Jesus, like that he walked the earth in where Melisandre is from, the Asai.
I had one of those bowls recently. They're great.
Asai. It was like, you know, thousands of years ago, or like 2,000 years ago, there was this warrior who banished the darkness.
Oh yes,
and then
Ashai. Ashai.
yeah,
That's
then
what we're
he
saying.
died, I guess. So that Azor Ahai is basically like the reincarnation of this warrior, just like this, like, you know, very similar to the second coming of Christ. Similar.
Right. And so it has something to do with the long night. I believe.
Yeah,
And that's the part where I always get wishy-washy on it. Like I don't actually know what I know from the books and what I've read from wikis and stuff like that. But I think
yeah.
Azor Ahai ended the first long night, and that's the whole like winter is coming. It may be the second long night, and then Azor Ahai would bring them out of that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd bounce that off you, see if I got confirmation.
Yeah, that's what I remember too of the original Night's King. I mean, they're calling this White Walker leader the second Night's King. I mean, it could honestly also be the same guy. Like these dudes don't really age; they're zombies.
Yeah, or he could have been alive, died, and now he's back.
Yeah, again. So yeah, it's because now the same threat or a similar threat has arisen in the north of this winter is coming. Now the prophecy is trying to come to fruition.
It's trying
really hard. So there's a lot to unpack just with the prophecy itself, but there's also Melisandre breaks it down even further of her, because Azor Ahai is like her religion, this red religion. And she says to Jon, when the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amidst smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone.
I mean, that's black and white, right?
Yeah,
obviously we saw the smoke, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously in a very fun scene flying out of her.
Yep.
And then dragons are awake, right? Yep. And yeah, so it's obvious.
And we saw the red star.
Yeah, and the red comet.
Yeah.
So there's really two main, I mean, there's a lot of like third party candidates, which I think are really fun, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But the two main candidates are obviously Jon Snow or Jon Targaryen, whatever you would
Thank
like
you
to
for
refer
correcting
to
that.
as.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
He's not a bastard.
And Dany, my girl, Daenerys Targaryen herself. So who are you guys team? What team are you on for this prince that was promised?
I'm going to take Team John and then let Taylor take one of the third party candidates.
I'm fine with that. Well, yeah, I'm gonna definitely. I want to say Team John, but when we get to the third party stuff, there was something in the trailer that gives me pause.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll and that could be any number of things, but I would say the most likely is going to be John, just because Dany's had so many magical things happen to her, that I just feel like John's like sort of the full formation of his character is dependent on him ascending to this level, and he came back from the dead. So I feel like there's got to be more reason for that than just, hey, he's cool. Like, no, he's got to have something else going on with him.
Well, Emily, let's hear your what's your campaign, what's your stump speech for Team Dany?
Okay. What are you going to be, though, Peter?
Oh, I'm Peter Dinklage all the way.
Your team Tyrion. So your team third party as well.
Secret Targaryen.
Okay.
Tyrion Targaryen. Right.
Not a great leader.
Okay. So, yes, my stump speech. Team vote Dany. Vote Targaryen.
They're all
so
Targaryens.
Dany was born at Dragonstone, which is this like little tiny island off the coast of Westeros, which plays into this salt part of the prophecy, that she was literally born on an island at sea, and then was reborn in a sense under the Red Comet, because her and the horse people.
I was gonna call him Kunari. That's not right.
Dothraki.
Kunari.
Yeah.
Kunari.
Dothraki.
Yeah. The Dothraki were traveling across the endless desert while this red comet was in the sky, and she was reborn via fire, which plays into the smoke when she goes into Drogo's fire death pyre or whatever. And in that same sense, she literally woke dragons from stone. Like, those dragon eggs that she was carrying around that whole time were just like rocks. Like,
Yeah.
they weren't real dragon eggs. Like, they were just petrified pieces of rock that look like dragon eggs. So, I mean, it's too specific, like, for me to ignore that. And also, there was one really interesting piece that Bendrick Dondarrion, our favorite zombie bandit, said that there was a legend that the flaming sword of Lightbringer was born of a loving woman, a loving wife's heart. And since Dany was reborn while she was grieving Drogo, like, she didn't know that she would survive the flames the first time. She just was like, my life is over. Like, my son is dead. My husband is dead. That my people are dying. I'm just going to go into the fire with my dragons too.
Mm-hmm.
That her flaming sword is not so much a sword, is that these literal 3 dragons that she flies around with.
Oh, metaphorical
and my last
sword.
little bit of
Team
Dany info is when Maester Aemon, in the books, I can't remember if he ever talks about it in the show. It's one of those little details you kind of forget, but I distinctly remember in the books, he is telling Sam or John that in High Valyrian, the word prince is used as a gender neutral term. So when the prophecy was translated from High Valyrian, people just assumed, as this is a patriarchal society for the most part, that they just meant a man as a prince and not a princess. And so that's why I'm super duper Team Dany. Like, if it's not her, I won't be mad, but I just feel like there's so many more things in her background than Jon that are so closely tied to the prophecy, that it has to be her.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I feel embarrassed for asking this because I own The World of Ice and Fire, that awesome encyclopedia thing. But does Azor Ahai ever tie into the 3-headed dragon myth that the show hasn't really touched on yet?
No, I think that's a different thing. Like, the 3-headed dragon comes from I think we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but those are 2 different things. The 3-headed dragon comes from a vision that Dany saw in the House of the Undying, where her brother Rhaegar comes to her and says the dragon has 3 heads, as the Targaryen sigil is a 3-headed dragon. So it is different. And I get what you're saying, Taylor or Todd, both of you, that she's kind of already had all these like crazy mystical magical things happen to her. Like, if she's also this warrior princess, like, it would maybe be a little too much. Like maybe let someone else have some of the magic and like the attention.
Well, the reason I ask is everything you just laid out makes great sense to me, and I'm like, maybe Azor Ahai is meant to be, and maybe the show somehow rectifies this way. Maybe Azor Ahai is 3 different individuals,
right,
tied together. Like the elements of each part of the prophecy have to come from 3 different people. And as we get further into the sort of the candidates, I wonder if that isn't sort of where they're thinking of going.
That's an interesting point.
Here comes the Todd rebuttal.
Right, and then with their powers together, they form Azor Ahai.
Our powers combined.
Right.
Exactly.
Like Voltron.
Like a transformer, hopefully.
Fire, wind, ice.
Yeah, Azor Ahai.
Whatever Tyrion has.
Fuck winter.
Fuck winter.
Yeah.
I would like some winter right now because right now at our house it's 111 degrees.
Ugh.
So please, some winter, please.
Send
come.
ice.
Yeah.
So here's my John Targaryen stump speech.
Yes.
I love all your points. I think you have got an ironclad evidence in the dragons, especially in the books. They really refer to those dragon eggs being just stone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that very word is used. So it's like it's a real clear line. But and I'm not thinking along the lines that you were about born among the smoke and salt, but there's a good case for John that you noted in our show notes here. He was born among the smoke in the battle of the Tower of Joy, and the salt would be his mother's tears. Arthur Dane, I didn't even know this. Arthur Dane's sword, which Ned took after defeating him, was allegedly made of meteorite ore, so a fallen star there. But here's my like I said, here's my stump speech for John, which is that there is a theory by one crazy Redditor that Lightbringer is not a sword but a place, and that place is Winterfell, and that the winter will break against Lightbringer, i.e. the castle of Winterfell. And there's part of this, I guess, in some of the innuendo and stuff, is it's possible that Bran the Builder, an old Stark who built the wall and Winterfell, was the original Azor Ahai. And we know that he's infused the wall with this magic that stops the White Walkers from coming across it. And that he's weaved that same magic into the stones at Winterfell around the wall. So that kind of gives it that sword feeling that that winter's going to break against it. And then of course there's just the legacy of Bran down to Jon, who's part Stark, even though he's in the Targaryen lineage as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm putting all my Jon Snow votes behind that theory, that if Lightbringer is the actual castle, then Jon is Azor Ahai.
Do you think, I mean, the show has not delved into nearly as many details as the books have. Do you think some of that will hold water on the show?
No.
Because I'm just like, I don't think they've ever mentioned that about Winterfell. Now, we have that sort of that wild card of Sam being at, Maester Hogwarts, for want of a better term. Old Town, yeah. And
I love that.
And I feel like the only reason he's there is to deliver like giant chunks of exposition about this stuff. Like he's in like the oldest library in all of Westeros.
God,
so
I
it's
wish I'd
like
been doing that all along.
I know, right? It's like maybe the whole, like, it'd be awesome if like the whole, almost like American Gods, like if each episode started with a maester, like, speaking of the ancient times or something, right. We could have got a lot of info dump. But I'm wondering, like, if they're, that seems the convenient mechanism for them to give us some of this info. Not to say they can't, that, like he could say, oh, wow, Winterfell used to be called that. Interesting. But I wonder how much of that, given how many episodes we actually have to finish the story, what are they going to focus on to really get us to that point where they reveal it? And hey, there's another point there too. What if there is no Azor Ahai on the show? What if they just sort of glaze over it? Yeah.
And that's one of the third party candidate guys is Rhaegar Targaryen, Daenerys's brother and Jon's father, of that he's dead, and maybe it was him all along. And it's kind of like it's like really pessimistic of like, well, shit, we killed him and now winter is coming and we have no one to defeat the Night's King because Rhaegar's already dead. which would be really sad. It would be like a really shitty end of this like series we've all watched for like 8 years or whatever. Like, nah, everyone's dead. Winter took over. We'll start again like in 1,000 years. Bye.
That would be just utterly tragic. Of the what do you want to call it? The B team or the C the C team of the candidates. Who does everybody like outside of Dany and Jon for other possible other possible Azor Ahais, like the second string candidates, if you will?
I saw a really interesting theory that it was Davos.
Whoa.
Yeah, because he
Sir Friendzone?
No, Davos Seaward.
Oh, right.
Stannis's second in command. I like that one only because again, a lot of it kind of fits. Like, he is a seafaring gentleman. He was born, I think, also in Dragonstone or on the sea. So there's the salt. Then he is sort of like repurposed after the dragon's fire explosion in at King's Landing. So smoke. There's like a few other things and there was one where when we first kind of see Melisandre and he pulls Stannis's flaming sword from the sand and holds it, and Melisandre kind of looks at him for a minute.
Oh my God, that's right.
So I like, and I think that would be kind of cool. Like, again, in the books, I mean, it might just been like a positioning thing so we could understand where Stannis was in the books, but they've given him a big voice in the novels, and it might be kind of interesting that, out of someone who thought he was worth nothing to be worth everything. Wow. And now that he's kind of paired up with Jon at the wall and fighting, that could be good.
I like Davos. Yeah.
I love that idea.
Sold me on that. Oh my God.
Because Taylor and I talked too about how he's one of the people who has that conversion moment. Like, he doesn't believe in any of the gods until he sees Melisandre's magic. And then it's like he starts to believe in all this, magic in the world. And so for him to actually be Azor Ahai would be a really cool idea.
I just love the juxtaposition that Emily laid out, where he came from nothing and ends up being everything. Like, just hearing that made me go, I want this now. I'm going to actively campaign for this to be the case.
He's probably a secret Targaryen.
Jesus, could you imagine?
I don't know. He's a little bit on the older side. Maybe.
He was Neville Targaryen. He was rushed away long ago. Never came back. Here's the thing that throws me off. In the trailer, with the newest trailer that's come out for season 7, we clearly see an epic shot of Thoros of Myr back again, holding a flaming sword that actually flame-ons while he's sitting there holding it in the shot. And then there's another sort of quick take, cutaway where it's a group of people, including Jon, and Thoros is in that group holding the flaming sword again. Now, granted, Thoros has wizarding, abilities. Essentially, he's a red priest. He's got a lot of that, that's kind of that going on. But does that somehow make him either the one who gets to choose Azor Ahai? Does he just become it? And if that ends up being the case, does that satisfying in any way, shape, or form?
And I think too, in the books, I remember Ned, because Ned fought with him in the rebellion, and there's actually a part where he says that he dipped his sword in oil and lit it on fire before battles to scare people.
Oh, okay, that's way cooler.
And there's a bit in the books too about how brittle that makes his sword after he does it so many times. And does it break? It may break when he's fighting the Hound. I can't remember.
Yeah, it does. He cuts it in half, or it splinters or something.
Yeah, because he's set it alight so many times that it's weakened the blade.
But it looks fucking cool. So oh well. Man, Jaime Lannister is another one that gets floated a few times.
I
can't imagine that one's being.
I know. I can't. The only thing, and this is my thing with Jon too, about the Lightbringer sort of. Valyrian steel is steel that is made from dragon's fire. That's why it's so rare now. It used to be super popular when dragons were around. So that was it's a literal flame sword because it's made from dragon's fire. But Jaime's kind of the I don't think it's him.
Be cool if it was Brienne somehow.
Oh.
I mean, she's just so awesome, right? Every time she's on screen, it's I need her to be on screen more.
I didn't even list her
What-
here. How
I would
dare
say what's
I'll be Team Brienne.
the book evidence for that is that in the last 2 books, she is way the hell away from everybody. So,
She's
but
doing
they
okay.
haven't really gotten to these events yet in the book, even like, the last season, but she's just so far away in wherever it is,
Yeah.
where it's hard to say that she would have made it back to this. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and she's also potentially, sorry, spoiler alert. She's also potentially not in a good place after meeting Lady Stoneheart. So
Good
Mm.
point. Also, I think she
could
gets
also-
horribly wounded in this battle with that face eater guy.
Oh yeah.
I think so. Outside the farmhouse, I think she's pretty badly wounded.
I mean, she was like hung, like Lady Stoneheart hung
Yeah.
her. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, she's fine. Like, we know that she's probably okay, but still, maybe she's like not in fighting shape at this point, like to go like kill some White Walkers. So maybe.
I struggle to wonder why so many people are so amped up about Lady Stoneheart returning on the show. At this point, I'm sure it's not happening, but just like as shitty as she is, it's like let's see her like do all these terrible things to everybody. It's like really.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make any sense. I think Arya is going to exact some of the revenge we expected from Lady Stoneheart. So
Yeah,
be-
I think so.
yeah, not to get too off topic there.
Yeah. Well, let's get really super off topic, but with some chaos theories. But before we do that, so Team Danny, Team John, Team Third Party. Those are all really good theories, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I'm excited.
the show has a little bit of like leeway for the whole Azor Ahai thing to be metaphorical and not necessarily a single person. So I think there's maybe some way they can kind of get around it in that way.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And I like Taylor's theory too, that maybe it's not just one person. There's a
Right.
theory we'll talk about in a little bit of that maybe it's 2 people plus maybe a third. We don't know. So
And then we could all be right.
yeah, then we could all win. Yes. Okay, so
Chaos theory.
chaos theory. This was the first one you guys actually proposed, and
This
I
is
think we
one of my
talked about
favorites.
it. Yeah,
Oh, it's all over the
we
internet.
talked
I love
about
it.
we talked about it in our season 6 wrap up episode roundtable last year, and we laughed really a lot about it.
No, it's for real.
Is that Varys is a merman of some kind?
Merling.
A
Merling.
merling, excuse me, a
yeah.
merling. Because like, how the f did he get from Dorne to Dany so fast? And she was like, was she already on the boat when like he was it like what? Why? How did he do this?
Yeah, so there's that. I was rewatching season 2 this week, and of course, in all the theories on the internet, you'll find this kind of cheated out there anyway. But just in my rewatching, was shocked when that line comes up where Tyrion threatens to throw him in the sea, and he says, "You might be surprised with the result."
Ooh.
We've never seen his feet, and I'm
All but confirmed.
there's a scene in the books that's also in the show, but it doesn't have the same details, where when Arya is running through the corridors and stuff of the Red Keep, she happens upon like Illyrio and Varys making plans in this like dark chamber, and in the books she hears like a squishing of water sound, and they seem to appear as from out of a well. One of the things that show watchers point to confirm this theory is that there's a long shot of like Tyrion in Varys's chambers in maybe season 5, I guess, and there's no bed in the room. There's seemingly only like a I don't know, just other furniture.
A big bathtub.
And then my favorite part of this theory, which I got from I had not read in the Reddit theory, was on like there's a Nerdist video where they go into this, is that presuming winter comes and ice is over everything, and then the dragons melt all that ice, what happens to all that water? Like the whole land is going to be underwater. It's going to be a giant water world, and who would want to bring that about? But the Merlings, obviously. And the tallest place in Westeros is the Eyrie, which Littlefinger commands. So if there's a Littlefinger Varys conspiracy here, it may be to flood the whole world with water so that the Merlings can survive, and only Peter Baelish stands above it all.
Wouldn't it be amazing if, like, at the end of like the epic battle between the the Whites and the White Walkers and everybody else and the dragons, and they just barely eke out a victory, then it's like Littlefinger, and Varys stand triumphantly from their tower. Now the real battle begins, and everybody every show watcher, wait, what? Like, when did this become about this? Here's my question though: he was mutilated by that dude he had locked up in his torture box.
Yes, the sorcerer.
Yeah, and it's like this almost makes me wonder, like, was there more to that sort of mutilation than just him taking off hhis private parts? Like, was there? Could have been his pen. Yeah, like, was there something else? Like, was he experimenting on him somehow, or was there other stuff involved? That opens up a whole new line of questioning about Varys.
There's also one of the evidence that people point to is there's a house whose sigil is a Merling. So there are Merlings sort of in the history of Westeros.
I like it. It's crazy, and I hope that it's true.
It would be so out of left field if the show just like you just see him like shooting through the water with a tail. That would be so amazing.
Head.
Like an after credits scene on the very final episode. He's just like so happy.
It's Aqualab of Thrones.
Yeah.
There's this.
It's one of the spinoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was Westeros Waterworld is a new show. Oh my god, that's so funny. I like it. I'm into it. Merlings. Oh man. Well, okay. So we talked about the dragon has 3 heads. So now that Jon is confirmed, and nobody say it's not confirmed because it fucking is.
Oh, totally.
It is. That Jon is a Targaryen. That Jon is the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. So now there's 2 heads of the dragon. So we're still missing one. And in the book, we see a little bit more of like maybe there is a second secret Targaryen. Maybe not so much of a secret, but that he's been in hiding for all these years, which is little Aegon Targaryen. Which was one of Rhaegar's sons with Elia Martell. So it was like he got snuck off King's Landing before the sack, and has been living as like a riverboat child like all these years. So he would be the obvious choice. But another prevailing theory is that Tyrion Lannister is actually a secret Targaryen. It's sort of one of these, like, you kind of hope for something more for him. Like, he has already suffered enough. Like, maybe he actually is super duper important other than just like being a really baller dude. And so in the books, this is just from my own thing, of that Tywin Lannister, his dad, who probably just doesn't like very many people in any way, but he really hated the Mad King, not just because he was mad, but because the king alluded to sleeping with Joanna, his wife. Whether it was consensual or not, probably not, considering the way that Tywin hated him. But if it would have been around a time when it would have been conceivable that if the Mad King did sleep with Joanna, that maybe Tyrion was actually his son, and perhaps the violence of it, or the shame and sickness or whatever that she felt, twisted him into this form, this, that he is much more deformed in the books than he is in the show. So maybe he's a secret Targaryen, and the dragons seem to like him, so maybe.
I like it.
Yeah, I was fully on board with this theory before last season started, and I don't really know what changed in the last season, but it just seems really remote to me that the show would confirm this as true.
Really? Because now I'm going to go the opposite way. I think in this regard, the show has given us just as much, if not more, information than the books. You just watch how Tyrion's story has been threaded, and especially the big focus on Cersei's hatred of him, and Jaime's sort of like, Jaime treats him like he's the adopted brother, in a lot of ways. And just he's always sort of had that estrangement from some of his family, and then Jaime's tried to be the bridge between them. But just the way Tywin has treated him, and the things Tywin has said to him in the show, and the fact that Varys was hell-bent on getting him to Daenerys. There had to be more to that than just, oh, you're smart and can help Dany. There had to be a bigger reason for him to go to that trouble to, risk his own reputation in King's Landing, basically ruin it. He can't go back without conquering it. So, why would he do that if not to unite those two siblings in that secret? And Varys, of all people, would actually be the one who would know that. He seems to be like the one of maybe 3 or 4 individuals outside of Tywin who would actually have that you'd be able to confirm that knowledge.
Well, crap. Now that you said that, so I was basing my feeling that they hadn't done a lot in the show on the fact that there was no scene of Tywin alluding to Aerys claiming to have slept with Joanna. But Taylor, you had put in our notes about they hadn't totally brought up the 3-headed dragon mythology on the show. Yeah. But Arya does mention something of the sort to Tywin when she is his cupbearer back in season 2 or whatever. Because he brings up one of the dragon riders, and she's like, and his 2 sisters. And so she knows her history about that. And so just the fact that happened with Tywin, maybe that is significant.
Well, and think about this.
One of his children would turn out to be one of those new dragon riders.
In season 1, Tyrion went up to the wall with Jon and had like a kind of a bonding moment with Jon. And he's had a bonding moment or two with Daenerys. Like they've put him with these people in ways that I think you have ample runway for payoff. Should that time, it's not like they're going to have to like bend over backwards to make that line up. If they decide to go that direction, like within 1 episode, they could very easily like make that reveal, and then we know it's going to happen. Let me put it this way: we know it's going to happen if how before every episode they do kind of like the recap cut shots of stuff. If we suddenly see a cut shot from season 1 of Jon and Tyrion on the wall chatting, like it's basically like I'm going to be screaming out to everybody, "It's happening! Here it is!" Because it's just like, what else is that for if not to basically tease us or remind us that these guys are more or less family?
Well, they spent so long drawing out Jon's parentage that it seems crazy that they would all of a sudden like slip in the secret Targaryen thing.
But it's not. But it wouldn't be slipped in. Like there's a lot. Just Tyrion's trial in general, like his, when he's in this cell and like Jaime comes to visit him, what they talk about. And then when, oh my God, the badass from Dorne, I just forgot his name. Oberyn comes in, like some of their conversation has just, they talk about family and what it means to be part of something or not part of something. And then, obviously Tywin's sort of, insult to injury in that regard too, to basically saying you've never been any son of mine. Like just so many little things the show has done that I think would add up to that very, very easily. It's not like the sexy thing that like everybody, the sexy rumor theory is that, well, Jon's the secret Targaryen. And yeah, that was definitely set up from the beginning too. But if you look at the things that the show did to get us to that point and the things that the show has done on Tyrion's side, it's pretty equal, other than there wasn't that big, Tower of Joy sort of flashback. But there was a lot of the little clues and things have been established, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
Well, now I'm liking this more because you're making me rethink all the Jon and Tyrion interactions. And before they even get to the wall, in like the 1st or 2nd episode, they're both outside Winterfell, and they have a conversation about being a bastard, versus being a dwarf, and they relate to each other on that. Or like Tyrion explains to him, like this is worse or whatever.
Yeah. I think he has that conversation with him too, of that he says, I can't remember the exact words, but he basically says like, just, own it, being just own being a bastard, because then they can't hurt you with it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think there's in the books too, they talk a lot about Tyrion as a child loving going to the Red Keep and loving being at Castle Rock, because they have all these like dragon skulls under the castle in King's Landing, that he always really liked that. Like he liked looking at the dragons and being around dragons and pretending he was a dragon rider.
Well, let me add one more little thing to that just occurred to me. Who was the one person in season 2 or book 2 that thought right away, let's use wildfire to take out Stannis' fleet. Basically, they didn't have a dragon in practice, but they had the power of a dragon in terms of the wildfire stores that they had under the castle. And Tyrion was the one who's like, let's do it. He had no reservations about it. Like you've got moments in the show where he's highlighted in this way, in the same way that Jon, in the same way that Dany is, and in a way that, Sansa is not, and Arya is not. Like, they've really focused on, like, kind of building the mythology and, like, showing you, like, hey, they've grown in this way. And, like, Dany's, grown and evolved to become this fearless leader. And Jon, same thing. Tyrion, same thing. What's the point of Tyrion's journey in that regard if it's not to some bigger end that, gets us to on equal footing with those other two characters? The more I think about it, the more just sort of little details pop up where I'm like, man, if it's not that, fine, but you could easily make it a case.
Well, and Emily, I'm embarrassed that I didn't immediately recall this because I have read the Tyrion theory stuff before, but when I just Googled it, I was reminded that in the books, Tyrion has one black eye and one blue eye, I believe, something like that. And he has whitish blonde hair, whereas the Lannisters are, just generally known for this like yellow blonde hair.
Yeah, I remember that too. I forgot about the eyes. You're right. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, it really helps the that narrative.
For sure. Cool. I hope it's true.
I do too.
As much as I hate, we've like blah 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 secret Targaryen, and then it's like, oh, but just kidding, another secret Targaryen. Yeah. But oh well.
Well, I'm sure they'll do a couple of floaters first, like, oh, there's no way that we could be related, ha 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 ha, and then like a couple episodes later, oh yeah, we're related, ha 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 ha.
Just kidding, right. JK.
All right, so we're kind of like, we got one chaos theory that sounds pretty outlandish, the merman, and then we've got one that's sounding more and more reasonable. We've almost talked all of ourselves into it.
Yes, true. So let's talk about one.
Are we not? I
not
like
true.
the mermaid. I mean,
the
mermaid.
The mermaid.
Yeah, this is a great theory.
That was not true either?
I do want Tyrion to ride on Varys's back when he's the merman, like jumping through the water, like when Aquaman would ride on a dolphin's back, in the cartoon.
Just gliding in and out of the water.
Oh Jesus!
That's the final shot of the show, and like it is a sunset, close iris on the shot, and credits. There we go.
Like a Free Willy moment, where they jump up and they yay!
Oh, Jesus, no. Okay, no. Okay, well, since most of these are these chaos theories are not so crazy, let's talk about one that probably is really crazy, and it's not gonna work. This isn't gonna work out. Sorry, theory. And this theory is that Arya is actually dead.
Whatever could you mean?
I know. In season 6, Arya had this long journey with the faceless men, and the waif was obviously this real bitchy girl who really just hated her for no reason. And I think it's one of those she just wanted to help her get better, I suppose, but she was a real mean lady. So once Arya takes a life that she wasn't allowed to take, which was, I forget his name now, he was one of the King's Guard, who has a predilection for little girls, so I'm glad that he's dead. The waif comes after Arya, and she stabs her, and she goes over the wall into the water and escapes. And so we just sort of see Arya later, that she survived and she's okay. But the theory is that she actually did die, and the person that we see is the waif wearing Arya's face, which we've known the faceless men to do. Or I see that Taylor has added that maybe
I was laughing
Arya
at that.
actually Jaqen H'ghar, which could also be true. I suppose. I don't know. They change their face, but can they change their body type?
I'll tell you this. Yes, because remember that one scene where Arya is being confronted after she kills what's his butt, the pedophile. Remember they're going back and forth, and Jaqen's basically she's ripping off faces, and it's the waif, and then the waif takes off her face, and she's Jaqen H'ghar. So it's just at this point, Jaqen's such a cool character, and I hate the fact that they left him in such a lame way that I'm like, how cool would it be again, I don't buy it. It would be ridiculous. I mean, this would be such a ridiculous thing to throw in at this late stage. But it's like, if it's gonna be anybody, it's got to be Jaqen, because we saw Arya and Jaqen like depart, and then like I don't see how she would have survived if not for the fact that she really died and Jaqen stepped in. But like, he's the only one who would know, have an intimate sort of knowledge of her sense of justice and what she wanted to do. And as kind of like a tribute to her, I could see him being the one that's like, I'll carry on. Yeah. I'll take care of it.
Just to be a little chaos theory advocate, that whole episode where the waif and Arya were fighting was the most ridiculous episode of last season.
Yeah, it really was.
Like
I mean, favorite. It was way over the top. Like, she jumps out of that window, even
the T2, the Terminator 2 scene.
Yeah, right. Like, she escapes originally through, like, when she jumps in the water and the mummer helps try to heal her or something, even what looked like a killing blow. And then the waif still shows up, kills that mummer. Arya jumps out the window, rolls down the stairs. I mean, it was
epic.
Yeah,
it was like Jason
Bourne. She was like, she's like,
it was totally Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
To contradict that, I do think that when Arya says to Jaqen, like, I'm Arya Stark, like a girl has a name, it's Arya Stark, and I'm going home. And then especially when she kills Walder Frey, I can't remember exactly what she says there. Does she say the North remembers, or does she say the Starks send their regards or something? I don't know.
Yeah, something.
I felt like that's
a very Inigo Montoya moment.
Yeah. So that was like my biggest one, that the waif nor Jaqen really would have knowledge of her hit list. So maybe Jaqen a little bit more, but they wouldn't really have any reason to try to go after the people she wanted to go after, or have knowledge of why she wanted to go after them in the first place. And just for some practical reasons of like, if that character was dead, I don't think that Maisie Williams would be so heavily featured in the marketing that's coming out for this season. Unless they were just like really trolling us. But even then, it was like, when they tried to pretend that Jon was dead, they tried to like, no, he's not here. Like, we have no photos of him, and like, we don't even know where he is. So I think if it was the same thing of like that she was actually pretend dead, I don't think they would be flaunting her all around like on Entertainment Weekly and like all these things.
Hey man, I'll say one thing. House of Cards did it, and everybody's like, "What? She was in all the promos."
Oh, that's true. That's true.
She was doing it. She actually, that actress,
something just got spoiled for me.
Well, I'm not going to say who, but that actress, name withheld, was like even doing like interviews on Kimmel and stuff, talking about it, and it's like, what the so
troll.
Yep, epic troll.
Yeah. Cut that part. I didn't say who. And hey, by the way, we're on season 5 of House of Cards.
I know, like, if you're not caught up with House of Cards by now, like, get on it. Sorry. Okay. Let's talk about Todd's favorite theory. Todd's favorite book theory.
This is even crazier than the merman theory, if you can believe it. This is one that I had not found in other spaces like Reddit or whatever, though I'm sure it's around there. But it came from this YouTuber named AltShiftX that crazy Game of Thrones fans have definitely heard of, because he really does a great job of explaining theories and just what happened in an episode and comparing it to the books. And it's like amazing how many quotes he pulls out and from the books and says this is exactly where this happened, and it's proof for everything. It's really cool. And that theory is that Bran ate Jojen.
Oh my God.
So that he ate Jojen Reed. And the way this goes, I even remember the chapter. I think it's in A Dance with Dragons, Bran chapter 3. So Bran is in the tree with the children, with the what's his name, the Blood Raven, and he is told, like, the children prepare this paste for him to eat, and he's told that it is the paste made of the weirwood tree, and that it will give him the green sight that will like help his magic to grow. And he looks in the paste, and it has these like deep red veins running through it that look like blood. And we all know that the weirwood trees seem to be bleeding anyway when they're carved into the face. So it doesn't seem that out of, it doesn't seem like it's anything but a tree, but he eats it and it's really bitter and gross. and then he never sees Jojen and Mira again. So when he like comes out of this trance, he's hoping to see them and they're not there. And before this has happened, Jojen has told him about, because Jojen has the green sight, or at least he has green dreams. He's not a true green seer, but he has green dreams. And before this happens, Jojen has told Bran that he knows that he himself is not going to make it, that he is going to die. And Mira says, "Stop it, you're scaring him." And Jojen says something like, "Oh, he knows what's going to happen," or something like that.
He knows.
And then throughout that chapter, there are all these like repeated phrases about knives and blood and magic and sacrifice. And so some of the like, other evidence, tangential evidence, is that Bran has already eaten people.
What?
Because he's warged into what's his name? His wolf, who has Summer. Wait, no, Summer. Isn't that is Summer Bran's wolf?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I always feel like that's Rickon's. I don't remember.
No, Rickon's is Shaggy Dog.
Oh, yeah. His has a little puppy name. So he's warged into Summer and eaten people and like battled them and stuff like that, or eaten them in the course of. Oh no, I think he ate people when he was hungry. And we already know that other people have been ground up and made into food. Like when the Frey daughters, I guess, Arya serves them to Walder Frey.
Oh no, the sons she killed.
Or the
well,
sons,
it wasn't
yeah.
Arya in the.
Well,
in
the show it's Arya, but in the books, yes.
Yeah, it's what's his name? We see him in the show. His Glover. Because Walder Frey killed his son also at the Red Wedding. So Glover comes and like kills the sons, but they don't like distinctly talk about it. They just say like, "I don't know where the sons were, but like here's some pie." Like,
yeah,
have this.
So this couldn't really happen in the show because Jojen doesn't disappear. He dies in a really explicit scene, like he's about to die, and Mira kind of mercy kills him and then blows him up so that the White Walkers can't turn him into a walker. Mm-hmm. But I do love that theory, and it's super gross. And great.
I just love the
in the book somehow.
I just love the earnestness in which you described it. Like I had to mute myself because I was laughing so hard. It was just ridiculous. I'm like, Bran ate Jojen. Like,
I'm pretty sure that's the title of the Alt-Shift-X video, and I did the same thing when I saw it. I was like, what?
Well, it's funny for the listeners at home. We have a list of show notes that we've been going through, and I have everything listed ahead of time, except for it just says Todd's fave book theory. No one has mentioned it here. So I'm like, what could this possibly be? And the last thing I expected is Bran ate Jojen.
It did not fail.
I felt the same way. I'm glad it caused some laughs.
Oh my god. Okay.
Back to
I'm glad that,
reasonable
that's your favorite. Like of all the extensive theories in the book, like that are not addressed, like
right,
eating people.
Bran eats Jojen.
I love it.
I think the merman theory was definitely my favorite until I heard about this one.
Yeah. Bran eats Jojen. Well, there are obviously a lot of theories, so we have not even begun to cover all of them, but I would like to cover a couple more before we end, because there's some, and a lot of these will probably be resolved in the next 2 seasons, if not this season. So the first one I want to talk about is, will Jaime kill Cersei? And I know this one started to get a lot of traction when last season, obviously, Cersei has done a lot of really crazy things to get the Iron Throne.
Shame.
That she basically came back with a fucking vengeance. And a lot of people died, and a lot of things have happened, and that maybe she's not altogether there. That the grief of losing all of her children has maddened her a bit, and that perhaps Jaime is the one to end her. So the most damning evidence is that in the theory we see, I think it was the beginning of season 5, we see young Cersei and her friend go into the woods and talk to this seer woman, Maggie the Frog. And so in the prophecy, she says that, that she'll never marry a prince because she was supposed to be married to Rhaegar, that she'll marry a king when she ends up marrying Robert, that he'll have 16 or 26 kids and she'll only have 3, and that that they will all be blonde and they will all be crowned, and they will all die. And so once all her children are dead, which they are now, that the Valonqar will strangle her to death. And so in High Valyrian, Valonqar means little brother. And I think they've talked about it on the show a few times that Jaime is like 3 minutes younger than her or something. He came out second as their twins. So by that thinking, he is experienced in killing mad rulers. So maybe it's just sort of like his bit. Like he's like, this king's crazy. Gotta do it. I know it's my lover sister, but sorry for the realm. Perhaps
for the realm. Here's the thing. Like as a writer, you want to take each character to the most fulfilling kind of conclusion from a story standpoint, but also if you've spent a lot of time with that character, for me at least, I like reading and I like writing characters that there needs to be a nice period, a nice coda at the end of that. And we've seen a lot of Jaime's redemption story so far. And I feel like just sort of sidelining him now to just be witness to Cersei's actions for the rest of the show or the rest of the story seems a little... it just seems like a little bit of a cop-out. And George R.R. Martin has given us a lot of juicy, interesting, directions for characters where they could have otherwise been sidelined. I just feel like his conclusion needs to be he kills his sister. He still has a friend out there in Brienne. He's got, and if Tyrion and crew and Daenerys end up taking over King's Landing, I can almost see a situation where Tyrion grants him mercy. Basically like it shows kindness to him as he was, given kindness from Jaime. There just seems to be a lot of good connective tissue for Jaime after he does that, but he almost needs that moment to really finally truly break from his bad habits and actually become the man he needs to be. I just see that, and maybe it doesn't happen this season, but it needs to happen, I think, for me to feel satisfied for him as a character. Oh, did I just lose y'all?
No, we're here. I love the idea that
so profound.
We're just excited about it.
Stunned you into silence.
I love the idea that line that was in the first episode and that they brought back a couple seasons ago where he says like the things we do for love. Like if that's the line he says as he's like plunging the sword into her heart, it would be so cool.
Oh God, yes.
He does believe that he and Cersei will die together. So I think
where's that from? What I always hear that, but I never know the source.
I was Googling it frantically as you were speaking, and I know it's in the I know it's in the books. Actually, sorry, Cersei says that apparently. We came into this world together, we belong together. Oh, maybe that's not it. But I believe Jaime said that as well, that they will die together. Or that he doesn't want to live without her or something like that. So I can see this ending like a murder-suicide kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be satisfying. There was one, again, High Valyrian is not an exact translation into the common tongue. So there was a point made of this theory that it could mean little sibling in general. I mean, the other part is she has 2 little brothers. So it could be Jaime, it could also be Tyrion, but that if little sibling is the actual translation, it doesn't have to be her little sibling. It could just be any younger sibling. So I think what would be really cool is that Arya kills her as she is a little sibling. And that Cersei's been at the top of her list all these years, that I think finally, I mean, we've seen Arya slowly start to tick off the names on the list. And I think having Arya, find Jon, find Sansa, survive this war, get to King's Landing, and get to check off that last name on her list, Cersei Lannister, would be super, super cool.
I like that too.
Yeah,
it doesn't quite have the tight little ending between Jaime and Cersei because their story is so weaved in through the books and the show. But yeah, I mean that'd be so great if Arya finally got like that fatality.
Yeah. Well, it's especially because so many of Arya's list has already been knocked off not by Arya. They've died from either natural causes or other people have gotten to them first. So she needs a few she needs a few wins. You
No,
know,
it's no fun just watching them die of natural causes or not hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
I did find the quote that I was referencing, and I got it backwards. It was not necessarily proof that they would die together. It's what Jaime cites, that the reason that he cannot die in battle is because he said, "I cannot die while Cersei lives. We will die together as we were born together."
Right.
So it could be, I mean, according to that, if we take the Valonqar to be someone else, maybe we'll see like them both die. Like he dies in that battle that we see in the trailer with the dragons flying overhead and all that, just as someone kills her.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that's true. Well, a lot of people still have to die. A lot of people have died. I don't know if you guys have seen that video where it's like the 106,000 deaths that have been going on Game of Thrones so far. But like most of them are like, troops and stuff, or people on the ships. But there's one guy who seems to avoid death really, really well, and that's Peter Baelish. I don't know how you guys really feel about Peter Baelish. I have mixed feelings about him. I think he's a conniving son of a bitch, but that he also has, he's not altogether bad. I don't think he is necessarily a good guy, but I don't know if he's one of the bad guys. But definitely I think his fate will be decided in the next 2 seasons, if maybe not this season. So why I added this one was because people were very like hand wavy excited on the cover of the Entertainment Weekly or whichever ones they were, with the Stark children or Stark Targaryen children. Arya seems to be wearing Peter's dagger.
Totally.
And so this is the dagger that we see when Ned, in the first season, when Ned comes to accuse Cersei and Peter Baelish puts the dagger to his throat. It's that dagger. We also see it a few more times in the series. So it's kind of recognizable, and she seems to be wearing it. So like the obvious answer is like maybe he gives it to her. I don't know. Like he's super in love with her sister. Like maybe he just gifts Arya this cool dagger. I don't know. But the other theory is that she murders him for it.
Yeah, I bet Sansa's like, "Hey, Arya, that guy looked at me wrong."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, got it. No worries." And then comes back with the dagger.
Yeah. And that, I mean, Peter is partially responsible for her father's death. He tricked him, basically, into saying like, "No, I'll stand up for you, or I'll hide you, I'll save your children, whatever." And then, puts a dagger to his throat so that Ned gets arrested. Also, he definitely has all that creepiness towards Sansa, which I think Sansa's kind of like falling for a little bit of like, hey guy, but if she were my sister.
I think she's using him more than anything. I think Sansa sees that she can use this person of power.
True.
Hopefully.
And
I like that perspective.
So my thing, I think I had a tweet the other day about people in the trailer were like confused, like why would Sansa not like Jon? Like, hey, look, if I had made a deal with the literal devil to help save my ancestral home and my brother, and then all these dudes voted for him to be the king in the North, I'd be pissed too.
Yeah.
So Peter obviously supports Sansa as queen in the North, and so maybe he might try to do some maneuvering to get rid of Jon, whom Arya is quite close to. So there's a variety of reasons why Arya would probably want to kill him, why most people would want to kill him. But I think she ends up doing it.
I'm going to make another sort of, or put another sort of slant on that. In the same way that Jaime Lannister's character, I feel like needs a nice coda as it relates to Cersei, I don't see where Peter Baelish's character goes from here. It was not, nothing was more obvious to me than when Jon beat, what's his face? I just forgot his damn name. In the Battle of the Bastards, like, they won. Ramsay, thank you. Good Lord. He beat Ramsay, they won, everything worked, and then everybody crowned him king. Peter was standing there like, kind of like, oh shit, what do I do now? Not what I expected. He seemed to be out of place. Like for all the years of him, at King's Landing, like, pulling levers and, twisting knobs and being all Machiavellian and secret. And, like we just loved him for all those different things. He seems to be kind of at the end of his road, in my opinion. Like I don't know where he goes from here. And I don't know like what else he can contribute to the story in a world where Jon is king, Daenerys has just arrived with her whole horde and has dragons. So no matter what sort of deals within deals he's made, a dragon can just roll right over that. And Cersei's obviously gone crazy in King's Landing. Like, where does that leave him? And I feel like he's either going to be a cudgel, for some greater purpose, or that's a great way for Arya to sort of, if she can't get to Cersei, that's kind of the next best thing in my mind. Is just, well, she takes out, Peter Baelish for all the reasons Emily listed. Mm-hmm. But I just don't see what you do with Peter Baelish in season 7 and 8.
I like this theory because, as I've said several times on Wednesday in Westeros, like the first 3 books to me are so good because of the mystery of who killed Jon Arryn and what set all this in motion. And then it was in the show, it was like kind of, I felt like not given the weight when it's revealed that Peter Baelish had all this, he was one manipulating everybody behind the scenes. In the show, that just kind of got glossed over. I mean, we know he's a manipulator, but in the books, I felt like that was a big ass deal. Like, so I love that. Emily, I have a question for you. That dagger that we've been talking about, though, so is that the dagger that killed Jon Arryn that was then found with Tyrion or whatever? I can't quite remember the whole chain of possession.
Yeah.
But there's a part where Peter says like, "Oh, I can answer that question. It's my dagger. I lost it in a, gamble or something."
Yeah, I think it is the same one. I think it is, and I think it's very like the handle is very recognizable because it's like the fingers, like the tower of the fingers where he grew up, or something like that. Like it's definitely unique to him, and we see it a few times in the book and a few times in the show. But I think you're right. I think it may be that same dagger.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's Lightbringer.
It's like a little thing.
Chaos theory.
So Peter is very good behind the scenes action, but there's a lot of dudes in Game of Thrones who are more of a go-getter type guys. And two of our favorite guys, this is Taylor's favorite theory, is the Clegane Bowl is back on because they're both alive-ish and accounted for. So like, let's get to it because this is the fucking, like, we've all been waiting for this. Like the Hound needs, he's on this redemption arc and the Mountain is the zombie guy. So, but I think especially on the Hound's end, for his redemption to be complete, he really needs to finally end things with the brother who tortured him and kind of turned him into this nasty guy in the first place.
His story has been so great these last several episodes with the Hound.
Yeah. With Ian McShane for one episode, like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
Ian McShane's like, "Okay, bye. I just gotta make American Gods. See you later."
Yeah. I wonder if they didn't have greater plans for him until that happened. They're like, "Oh, we've got this. We'll introduce you. It could be this kind of cool side character." But for what it was, that episode was awesome. So
yeah, true.
It was. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. Ugh.
I know, the worst.
So we're pretty sure that we see, like, there's a scene in the second trailer that we've just seen where the Hound appears to be in the south because the sun is shining and he looks like he's about to be in battle with someone.
Hope it's the Mountain.
I'm just saying.
Well, like here,
Mountain.
What do you do again? Going back to we have to start thinking as viewers now. We have to start thinking like writers. Like, what is there are pieces on the board and there's only so much board left. So what's the most logical conclusion to get the most satisfying result? And you gotta get rid of the Mountain somehow. He can't just be around and just forgotten. Like he's got to have like an amazing kind of end. And what better? I mean, I just think to the end of this series, we're gonna have so many loose ends tied up in potentially amazingly satisfying ways. It almost might be too much. But like what does he do? But here's a better question. Arya left him for dead. Now, does he, do they have an encounter before he, goes on to fight his brother? Does she play a part in that? Does she somehow help? I feel like there's more to their story that I think might bleed into Clegane Bowl in some way, shape, or form.
So not to be a wet blanket on that, but you mentioned that spot in the trailer too, where Thor. Wait, it's not Thoros that we see. It's Beric Dondarrion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I said Thoros. Yeah, Beric Dondarrion.
Where he's in the north, like clearly in some snow, fighting with Jon. I believe we also see the Hound there because the Hound has been with the Brotherhood Without Banners. Mm-hmm. So for him to get from the north, where there's clearly some heavy shit going on, all the way down south to fight the mountains, does seem unlikely.
He took that Valerian hyperloop that Varys and Arya and all those guys took to get to where they go. That's how they get around so fast. They just, they don't want to burden us with, a shot of her just sitting in like a car, just sitting there waiting. And...
yeah, boring.
Exactly.
True. They're a good pairing. They're brothers. A pairing that is my favorite, and I understand that people will think this is sort of gross, but get over it, okay?
I got a grosser one coming up after it.
I know yours is way grosser than mine. So, but in the context of Westeros, both are not that outrageous, okay? So my ship, my crack ship, as it were, at this point, is that Jon and Dany will hook it up. And this has been like from day one, people have been like, it's like those first, like when he wasn't so young, like maybe so season 2, and they did like cast photos together and he's like holding her, like they're like both seated down. I was like, oh God, they're so beautiful together. Like, please, because she's always like, she was always in white and he was always in black. Like, they like look really good together. So the Targaryens have a history of marrying their siblings, brothers and sisters. So hot. So the fact that Daenerys would be his aunt would maybe not be too weird, considering he didn't even ever know his parents. They didn't like grow up together or anything. Todd. So maybe, it's not so gross, but okay, I can understand when people are like kind of uncomfortable about it. So, but my thing about it, and that's why I was kind of excited when Taylor brought up that maybe Azor Ahai is not one person, but a couple, of that Jon and Dany getting together would be a true song of ice and fire, just like Lyanna and Rhaegar. Of that, Jon obviously represents the ice of the north, Dany the fire of the dragons. So if they are getting together and potentially maybe even having children together, those children, like Jon, would be this song of ice and fire kind of character. And I just really, I like it. Like, I think that they would be good together, and I love them. So
let me go off on a tangent. It's not in the notes, so I apologize. But there are a subset of fans who say all of that and want all of that and actually agree with all of that. Only instead of Jon and Daenerys, they're shipping for Sansa and Daenerys. And I don't know quite. I've sort of like observed these discussions and have tried to like, I'm like, why? What, really? And it's definitely shipping, but it's like but it always ends with, and then you will finally see a true song of ice and fire. and the whole kind of like the whole shaky ground this is standing on is the fact that, well, Daenerys she gave Yara some love me eyes, so that means she's open to it, right? And it's just like, okay, I mean, that's a really, really big stretch. I would much rather see what you're describing, because it makes, and here's what I almost think what will happen. I think Daenerys is going to suggest it, and you're going to get some line from Jon going, I'm not going to marry my aunt, just some, just throw away, like he's not into it. He's not going to, and she'll give you all the reasons. She's like, hey man, this is going to work out. After all the dust is settled, she'll give you some spiel about how, we need to unite the entire, all of Westeros needs to be united. And the best way to do that is for us to hook up. Tyrion will be like, hey, she's right. Makes good sense. And he's going to be like, no, I'm just tired. I just want to go.
I like redheads.
You're a lot. Yeah. You got 3 dragons. It's a lot of baggage. I don't know.
I do think that, if there's like a lot of like, it's right on the nose kind of thing. And because we've invested so much time in like all these crazy conspiracy theories, we tend to ignore the like right on the nose kind of stuff. But if all this had happened a lot faster, like if George R.R. Martin could write books in a normal amount of time, this would still be like a great mystery to be revealed, that Jon and Daenerys, get together, because you're right, that is a song of ice and fire. They've planted all those seeds about the cousins marrying and brother and sister and all that kind of stuff, and it's it's not really gross. They didn't grow up together or anything like that. it's just like her being Azor Ahai. I mean, she is like literally, you know, it's like the stone dragon eggs were reborn in her presence in the smoke and fire and all that kind of stuff. And I think sort of like from a good writing perspective, that's what all this set up a long time ago. It's just that we've had so much time in between the installations that we like tend to start to, you know, conspiracy theory about it all and go off the rails. Like,
well, keep in mind too, he may have started off thinking that was exactly how it was going to happen, and then got obsessed with this idea that, oh no, Jon's actually a Targaryen. Like, he may have started off, Jon may have been like not a Targaryen and had some other backstory entirely, and was still, you know, he was going to come back to life and all that stuff. But maybe we wound up this way, which is just, you got to almost kind of think of like, where is his mind? What did he get bored with, and what is he still interested in as a writer? And like, what, you know, how is the show going to either capitalize on that or just ignore it for the sake of the show? Because we're at that point now where they really have to get very specific with the stories and the reveals they have to tell. Because what do we have? 13 episodes left in total? Isn't something like that? 7 and 6 next year?
Yeah. Okay, Todd, do your ship. Do your gross ship.
So
hashtag gross ship.
So Jon, of course, in the last episode was proclaimed King in the North. And we've also discovered that he is not actually like a Stark in the lineage sort of terms. He is a Targaryen. So he really needs to legitimize his position in the North. And what better way to do that than by marrying Sansa Stark, who is a Queen of the North, truly.
Sister, dude.
So they're just half cousins, I think.
I think they're cousins.
They're cousins, not half. Cousins. You're right. It's full cousins. Yeah. But you know, in the land of ice and fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they're a step away from the Targaryen kind of brother sister stuff.
So really, what this is down to is what's creepier: marrying your nephew or marrying your cousin, and like,
right.
That's really where we're at.
True.
Nephew seems creepier to me. But so in the books, Jon and Sansa don't really have a relationship at all. Like, they don't ever talk, and then he goes to the wall. It's not a big deal. She is a redhead. And we know he prefers the redheads. And also in George R.R. Martin's original outline, Arya falls in love with Jon. So
I remember that. Yeah.
That's my case. Oh yeah, I forgot about the thing I saw in the video, which is the prophecy of this Ashford tournament, which was discussed in the Hedge Knight stories or whatever.
Yes.
Which is, there is a Lady Ashford who has a number of suitors who are in this tournament. One's a Baratheon, one's a Lannister, one's a Tyrell, and one's a Harding, and then one's a Targaryen. And Sansa, as we all know, has been betrothed to a Baratheon, a Tyrell, a Lannister, and in the books, at least, she is to be engaged to Harold Harding when she's in the Eyrie.
Yes.
So the only one missing from her list is a Targaryen, and that would be Jon.
I like it.
Bingo.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Marries a brother, cousin, whatever.
So
brother cousins. You know what would be great is we had a sister wife kind of situation go on here, where Sansa and Daenerys and Jon all get together. Big love, Song of Ice and Fire, ship it.
Dany actually does consider that. Like, after Drogo's dead and they're in one of the conquered cities, and a guy proposes marriage to her, and she's like, well, I mean, my ancestors, I have 3 dragons. Like, I could take a second husband. Like, maybe she marries 2 people. Maybe she marries Jon and Tyrion. That's another theory, that they all just kind of like get together.
Wow. What if it ends in that kind of scene? Varys, this merman is splashing through the water, and there's just like an orgy going on at Winterfell.
It's directed by the Wachowskis. It's like a Sense8 scene where there's just like this giant orgy music video that goes on for like, 3 or 4 minutes, and you're like, what the hell? Like, it just ends.
I was thinking it would be like the end scene of Sausage Party, that animated movie.
Sadly, I've never seen that.
Oh my God.
Actually, no, fortunately, I've never seen that.
No, Taylor, actually, you would love it. You need to watch that. Well, it's food doing it, so it's not, weird or anything.
Fair enough.
Or double weird. Or double weird. Anyway. One family, Westeros family that we haven't talked about is the Greyjoys, mostly because there's just like so few of them left, and they've been kind of not mattering so much until like the very end of this last season, where now Theon and Yara have teamed up with Dany. So the other Greyjoy is Euron, their like evil pirate uncle. In the books, he's like way cooler. Like he has like an eye patch and like a monkey or something, or a bird. Like he's like this legit crazy pirate dude. And in the books, he plans to like go across the sea and like marry Dany, and not in like a nice way, like I'm gonna propose to her, like I'm gonna like woo her. He's basically like, we're getting married whether she likes it or not, which is really creepy and terrible. So like good luck, bro, because of the dragons. And in the books, like at the very end, he has been said to like have acquired this horn. There's a lot of horns in Westeros, of like horns that can control things. Like remember John's whole thing with the free people, of this horn that can control winter, or the White Walkers and stuff, or the giants and all these things. So he has a horn called Dragon Binder, allegedly, that he found in the ruins of Old Valyria. He claims it can control a dragon, but like he's never met a dragon. So he hasn't like tested it yet. But if he can control one of her dragons, it would like be super bad, for one, because we need the dragons to help fight all these White Walkers, and two, could make him a dragon rider and sort of like a shoo-in, non-consenting third head of the dragon rider. But mostly just F this guy, because he's terrible and I hate him.
I hope he like meets the dragon, blows the horn, it doesn't do anything, and then the dragon just eats him.
That would be amazing. That's kind of a fitting end for that guy, especially on the show, because on the show he just sort of rolls in like, I'm Euron Greyjoy. Hi, everybody. Hi. I mean, especially after Yara just gave that like amazing speech. You're like, oh, I love Yara. And he's like, yeah, fuck that. I'm Euron. You may not have heard of me, but I am definitely a Greyjoy, and you will all follow me now. That's like, okay.
He's all like, I'm the one here who has a penis, so I guess you guys will all follow me and not her, even though she's way better.
Right.
And murders his brother, just throws him off, like his legitimate king brother, just throws him off the walk.
Like an a-hole.
Like an
serious a-hole.
I hate that guy. Let's also, you know who I also think is the worst? Bran. Bran is the worst.
He's a leader.
And not because he ate Rick what's his face?
Not because he ate Jojen, but like he got Hodor killed, okay?
I know.
Okay.
Totally.
Fuck. And well, there's like so many theories about Bran, that he's time traveling Bran the Builder, that he in his three-eyed raven thing drove the Mad King mad by whispering to him and stuff. But mostly he's the worst because in his three-eyed raven things, we saw that he went to the place where the Night King is, and the Night King, in his Night King magicalness, grabs Bran and marks him. And so that's how, before Hodor dies, that the White Walkers can cross over this magical barrier, because Bran is behind it. So fun fact, guess what else has a big giant magical barrier from White Walkers? The Wall. So if Bran he's on his way back to the Wall, we assume. If he crosses the Wall, presumably the Night King's zombie army could like cross the wall as well, because Bran is the goddamn worst.
He's a real doucher.
I like him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really solid theory there, because I mean, it's if that magic is tied, and the White Walker did touch him, he broke sort of that barrier. Bran fucked up, and if he continues, it does seem that the White Walker is just going to follow him all the way south.
Yeah.
That would make me sad, though, because this entire time I've been waiting for that dramatic moment where, like, somebody blows the horn of winter and the entire wall just crumbles. Like, you know, as, like, that sort of, like, final, like, oh, my God scene.
I do agree. As soon as I saw that wall made of ice, the first thing I thought was, I want to see that bitch shatter.
Yeah. And it's going to be really disappointing if it's like, nope, it was just Bran. He's just being a douchebag and came over, and, like, there was no need.
He just like crawled across, and like now the whole zombie army is here. Okay, like
there's a whole scene where the Night King, he's got the horn, he's got everybody lined up, he's about to blow, and he's like, wait, what? And he like sees the shadow of Bran like going under the wall. He's like, oh, and just tosses the horn aside. Let's follow him. Let's just go. We don't even need this.
I'm with you. I don't like the way that's been planted. Like there were so many show viewers who I think kind of missed that one line about how the magic of the treehouse didn't work once Bran got marked. And
Magic treehouse.
So for them to have to explain how the wall works that way again.
But remember, we've got
like Taylor always says at the beginning of the episode, if we see those people reminding Bran about the magic in the wall.
But we've got Maester Exposition down in Old Town who can at any time we need any information, we just cut to Sam with some big scroll. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, and isn't it true? Sorry, random aside. Isn't it true that Michael Gambon has been cast as like the head Maester? Did I make that up?
I don't know who that is.
Michael Gambon is Dumbledore.
He was Dumbledore.
I could have swore I read something that Michael Gambon is like
dad, right?
There's no exactly. There's but there's going to be a head Maester, and it was either Michael Gambon or someone of that caliber is going to be the head Maester. But I know they're just going to, anytime they need to like reveal some big information, it's like, let's go to Old Town and see what Sam's up to. Like, why look at this right here. It says that the wall is made of magic and can be brought down if no, and it cuts back to Bran like crawling through it. You know,
I came across a bit of rare magic in the restricted section.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Maester Hogwarts.
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, Sam? It's like, quit shaking me so violently. I thought we were friends. No. Why are you mean all of a sudden? Why did that happen?
Man.
Taylor, whenever we do our giant Harry Potter lore episode or plural episodes, we need to have Peter and Emily on.
Yes.
Please. We are also, we were going to talk about it at the end, but our July fan theories is Harry Potter.
Please. I don't need to be on that because I don't know anything about Harry Potter really. Okay. And I have watched all the movies.
When you guys want to do Harry Potter as well.
Happy to.
Yeah.
Holla, because I will cry a lot.
Holla at your wizard.
As per usual. I think I cry on every show that I'm on because I just get really emotional about stuff.
It's true.
Oh, wells. Well, we've talked a lot about a lot of theories, so I want to wrap up with one that potentially will also be one of these like loose ends that we've never really solved on the show that will get solved, and that's Gendry being back. Because considering a line of succession, if they are going in turn now, he's the only like legit heir to the Iron Throne. As Robert Baratheon's surviving bastard, Joffrey killed all the other bastards and Gendry got away. So if you discount Daenerys's claim that Robert was a usurper this whole time, anyways. So the last we saw Gendry is that Davos had put him on the boat and he was rowing away from Westeros potentially to go somewhere across the ocean to hopefully be okay. And there's no like confirmed of him being back, but I did see some leaked set photos where the actor who plays Gendry was seen with Thoros Myr hanging out with Jon Snow. So how is this happening? Like maybe he has heard of the troubles and is finally coming back. And my thing about this is that Gendry is a very skilled smith, and perhaps he will be able to form some more Valyrian steel weapons in order to fight the White Walkers, as we've proven that those are kind of one of the only things that work. Now that dragons are back, the dragons can make the Valyrian steel with dragon's breath, and then Gendry could be like Hephaestus sort of guy. Ooh. Of like this smith to the resistance.
God, I love that. I
love it. I'm so excited. I hope it's true.
I got a great theory to add here, which is that Dragonstone, which we've been at before, but there were at least some good shots in the trailer of it. In the books, it sits on a volcanic island or something like that, or whatever, and it is filled with obsidian, which is the other. Isn't that that's the other thing that can kill White Walkers? That's dragon glass.
Kissed by fire, made
by
fire. Mm-hmm.
So, what if Gendry just rode in a circle and landed back at Dragonstone, like not knowing where he was? Or he's like out in the middle of the sea and he's like runs into this merman, and that guy was like, you just need to turn around.
Like, hey man, I need directions.
Yeah.
Merman. Sir.
Yeah, but he could be at Dragonstone making dragon glass weapons. That would be really cool.
That would be cool. I'm excited. It's kind of, he's one of those characters like we really didn't know what was going to happen to him because he was basically two characters. He was like, there's like two major bastards in the books, and he just kind of got like made into both of them. So, and I kind of hope another ship is Gendry and Arya, so that maybe he's being back. Him and Arya will finally like have their time now that she's grown. And like,
I'm actually a big fan of that. That's actually one of the ships that I'm actually really on board with.
Yeah.
I have got icky feelings. She was so young when they met.
She was, but it just
now,
it makes sense. Although I still love Todd's original like idea of like at the very end there's after the credits there's a PS scene and it's just Gendry on a boat just whistling and just rowing, just it's all.
Well, now I want that to happen, but Varys is jumping in and out of the water around him.
Right.
And there's just like a sunset, and you see Baelish in the tower at the Eyrie, like waving to them or whatever, the Eyrie.
Varys rolls up to the boat and Gendry's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "My name is Varys, and I have one question for you." It's like, "Yes. Would you like to know more about the Avengers Initiative?" Oh, dun dun dun! And it becomes like, you're like, "Wait, what? What?" It could even be something as simple as, "Would you like to go on
the Avengers Initiative?"
Yeah, exactly. And then we start on all the sequels that we have to unite everybody, and this goes on forever. And George R. R. Martin.
Avengers. I like it. Yep. I'm into it. If anyone is listening who works on the show, we're available. Okay, we're all available to write the ending of this series. Okay, we're here. We'll just wait for your call.
I just want like endless PS scenes, like almost like Return of the King style, where it's just like one after the other until we're like, oh Christ, is this over finally? And it's like
right. Like, oh yeah, I remember those guys. God, I haven't seen them for like 12 hours. This movie's gone on forever.
Oh my God.
I mean, I kind of want to rewatch them again.
I know, me too, but whatever. After this, this very long discussion that we've had, if you've listened to the entire episode, we congratulate you and applaud you. Please tweet at me if you do, because I want to give you like a gold star or something. This was a very lengthy episode.
We will mail you. We will use the postage to mail you a gold star.
Yes, if you listen to this almost an hour and a half episode. Thank you, Todd and Taylor. As always, this was super, super fun.
Thank you so much for having us. That was a lot of fun.
I hope you got good. I'm glad that you guys had fun and you're not like dying of thirst or hunger because we've kept you so long.
Oh, I love this. It gets me all excited about the show again,
Yes, me too. So this episode will also air on Wednesday in Westeros.
That is true.
This coming week. Cool.
So I'll tell you, you're hearing this in one of those places, but it doesn't really, but we will put it out. Yeah. There's a Fan Theories podcast, and there's Wednesday in Westeros. We'll go on Fan Theories on Monday and Wednesday in Westeros on Wednesday. And
double.
Yeah, you can subscribe to either of those places at their.network. And we're going to kick off Wednesday in Westeros, I believe, the week after this, like the first week of July.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah, so we're going to do a preview episode before the whole season kicks off. We're just going to hit the ground running, and we would love to have you both on that to recap episodes with us.
Yes, please.
Of course.
My fave.
Always available.
Yes. And so where can we and the listeners find you guys on the interwebs?
You can yell at me about all my misremembered book knowledge on Twitter at HeyToddA.
And you can find me at Taylor Trask, TaylorTrask.
And as always, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @EmilyKelly.
And my handle is @Screenwriter.
And make sure that you subscribe. If you really like this show, we had a couple other previous episodes, and you can find them on the Their Network, as well as iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, as well as Wednesday in Westeros, The Todd and Taylor Show, and all of the fantastic other podcasts that are on this wonderful Their Network they're a part of. Just a reminder that Game of Thrones airs July 17th, 2017. So hopefully we will have a lot more theories to talk about after the series starts. And maybe some of the theories that we talked about today will be proven in the next couple of episodes.
He is definitely a mermaid.
Definitely a mermaid.
Merman.
Merling.
Yes.
He is of the mer persuasion.
Mer persuasion. And we mentioned before, our next fan theories will focus all about my life-changing favorite fandom is Harry Potter, and that will be in July. And coincidentally, that is the 31st of July, which is Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling's birthday. So you guys can look for that right here on the Dare Network. And
Oh,
thank you guys
hey,
for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Okay,
I'll
love
say
you.
one
Bye.
more thing. Find us at San Diego Comic-Con later.